Hello there, it's Andy Parks from the Washington Times, and the nightmare on Pennsylvania Avenue continues. More on that coming up. But first, as a listener to my podcast, you qualify to receive a 50% discount on an annual digital subscription to the Washington Times. All you have to do is go to washingtontimes.com/Andy. That's washingtontimes.com/ANDY. All right. Yes, indeed. As I mentioned, the nightmare continues for the Biden administration. I guess at the top of the list would be the awful move used to get out of Afghanistan. And then there's the southern border, and then the COVID numbers are high, economic growth coming to a screeching halt, inflation coming at a staggering rate. Poll numbers so low that even ABC and the Washington Post had to hold the numbers till the weekend so their Democrat friends would be less likely to see them. Although even the lamestream media is having a tough time hitching their horses to Biden these days. NBC's Todd, had to admit Biden was having a tough time. Wow, this coming from a guy who drops to his knees and kisses Joe's posterior at every turn. Well, let's see. As far as Afghanistan, Joe and company are now kneeling to the Taliban and are begging them to allow our people to leave the country. But the latest news is very frightening. Did you know that 4 Gitmo detainees released by the Obama administration have now been named to key government positions in Afghanistan? How scary is that? We have people in that country, and we've got 4 terrorists that are part of an administration that will take over Afghanistan and become the world's playground for terrorists. Unbelievable. By the way, at last check, 6 airplanes were waiting to get out, and the Taliban said no. These airplanes were carrying, in many cases, U.S. citizens. This prompted the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, to finally admit there was a relatively small number of Americans waiting to depart. Okay, relatively small compared to what? The U.S. population? On Tuesday, he clarified his remarks by saying, yes, some Americans were being held on charter flights because some people were lacking valid travel documents. Okay, I'm willing to believe that. Are you? If Joe had any you-know-what, the conversation would be one of, you have 24 hours to get these people out, or we will take you out, period. Isn't that the way Donald Trump would have handled it? Yes. I also noticed that Secretary Blinken had yet to visit our fellow Americans there and assure them their passage would be approved. Wonder why. Meanwhile, our Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, was quick to say that there's no question that the withdrawal from Afghanistan will make it more difficult to identify terror threats to the U.S. Yeah. Again, nice move, Joe. Not to be outdone, but hopefully soon to be ousted, Governor of California, Gavin Newsom, immediately jumped into action by saying he'll need to spend $16.7 million of taxpayer money to help many of the Afghans entering the country so they can become citizens of his state. By the way, he's the only governor to come out supporting Joe Biden and the way he handled the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Wow. No wonder they want to recall the guy. Meanwhile, at the southern border, or as I like to call it, the toll-free highway to America, agents have been issued warnings to be on the lookout for al-Qaeda and ISIS terrorists. Yes, they'll be taking the easy way in. Thanks again to Joe Biden. As far as the COVID numbers go, you know, the virus that Joe promised would be out of here by now? Well, that's not happening. In fact, the variant numbers are supposedly worse than this time last year. Notice I said supposedly. Well, honestly, you can't believe a word these people say. It's all about the science, except for when the science doesn't show what the administration wants Americans to hear. Then they simply make it up and use it as a political tool. You want proof of that? The jobs and economic reports that came out last Friday were horrible. More people out of work, inflation rate at 5.4% compared to Donald Trump's 1.4% last year at this time. And what does Joe do? Sleepy Joe got out of bed to say the poor jobs in the economic news is a result of COVID. Huh? Nothing like a pandemic to cover your behind, right, Joe? Oh, and speaking of the pandemic, Anthony Fauci's back in the news. Rand Paul, through the Freedom of Information Act, got hold of some information that shows Mr. Fauci indeed did support, with U.S. dollars, the Wuhan lab. And so we really did pay for gain-of-function research, something that Fauci said under oath didn't happen. Can you say jail? This week, President Joe travels to hard-hit areas by Hurricane Ida along the northeast coast. He's expected to say the government will take care of everything. Now, he already has said climate change is the reason for the destruction. God help us all. Next week, on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, the president will visit the sites of terrorist attacks in New York, the Pentagon, and Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Joe will no doubt try to take a victory lap on Afghanistan and declare mission accomplished. Some who lost loved ones have told him to stay away. By the way, $10 says he mentions his late son, Beau. All right, let's see what else is happening in the country run by liberal jackasses. In Seattle, 200 more cops are set to leave the force after being ordered to get a COVID-19 shot or be terminated. The cops are holding their ground and say they won't be forced into doing something they don't want to do. Well, good for them. Now, this puts Seattle, like other defund the cops cities, in a precarious position. But the libs running these cities don't have to worry. After all, they have their own police details. They're safe and sound. In Portland, Oregon, another cesspool, they've decided not to buy anything that comes from Texas. The reason? Well, it's a protest of the new Texas abortion law. This riot-torn town not only kills people on the street, but supports killing some before they ever see the light of day. Must be a proud moment for all. But perhaps my favorite story of the week comes from that liberal trash dump in Nancy Pelosi's district. The city of Decay, or whatever they say. Oh, no, City by the Bay. San Francisco. Yes, in a new program called Dreamkeeper Fellowship, a.k.a. Cash for Criminals, they'll be paying $300 a month to criminals for not shooting people or getting shot themselves. Some will be eligible for bonuses of $200 a month more. Yeah, bringing their total to $500 a month simply not to shoot someone. Relax, though. These are the worst of the worst. You know, the grade A street thugs and gang members, or as the city officials like to call them, high-risk individuals. No. The high-risk individuals are those victims of these thugs. You know, forgive me, but the person or the people who came up with this idea need to be institutionalized immediately. Seriously. I wonder how much I can get for not robbing a bank, not stealing a car, or not speeding. Earth to San Fran losers, why not give the cops power to take the trash off the streets? Wouldn't that be a novel idea? After all, by paying these thugs, we know who they are, right? They come to get the check. We take them out. If they sit home waiting for the check to be delivered, that's fine too, as long as the delivery boys and girls are members of the city council. Case closed. And we wonder why America has gone to hell in a handbasket. Well, that'll do it for this week. Thanks for joining me today, and remember to receive a 50% discount on an annual digital subscription to the Washington Times. Go to washingtontimes.com/Andy. You'll get 24/7 digital access to the Washington Times at 50% off. Again, go to washingtontimes.com/ANDY. I'm Andy Parks. Have a great day.